Regular meeting of the Common Council, City of Oneonta. It is June 4th, about 4 minutes past 6 o'clock. We'll hold the meeting to order. Please hold the roll.
Mayor Rennick.
Here.
Councilmember Walter.
Here.
Councilmember McHugh.
Here.
Councilmember LaFarge.
Yes.
Councilmember Carson.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington. Councilmember Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Madison.
Here. All right. Should we vote on Scott?
Sure. You want to get something out of this, you have to watch.
All right. So we'll start with motion 1.
Do you want to do the pledge?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. If you please follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's the first time I missed that. All right, moving on to motion number 1, that the Common Council approves the following resolution. Whereas because of the resignation of Councilmember Luke Murphy, effective June 1, 2024, there exists a vacancy for the position of Council Member, 1st Ward, and whereas the Mayor, pursuant to the provisions of Section C23 of the City Charter, is given the power and directed therein to appoint a person to fill that vacancy until the next general election, subject to the approval of the Common Council, now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor hereby appoints Elaine Mosher-Campoli to fill that vacancy during the unfilled term of Ward 1 Councilmember Luke Murphy, and that the Common Council concurs with that appointment. This appointment is effective June 4, 2024, and will expire December 31, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve? Go with Cecilia, followed by Shannon, and we'll go forward to discussion.
So, point of order, a couple things. Why was the petitioner's public hearing and correspondence moved below this? Where 99% of the time in your 30+ months, it's been above this.
I would like to think that we might actually have a full council as we move into this council meeting.
And you don't want to hear from correspondence?
The community will hear potentially from the correspondence, but we've all seen the correspondence. It's all been shared with council.
There's a full gallery tonight, they might have some verbal.
I believe so.
Again, I would like to be able to start with a full council.
There might be people in the gallery that want to talk about this particular motion before we move forward. It would be good to hear the correspondence.
Would that be something that is going to be so persuasive to our council, having seen all of the correspondence that you've seen, that we need to rearrange the agenda in order to accommodate that request?
I guess the second point in order for me is that this motion was tabled.
That's right.
And if we read the rules, it was supposed to be on table by somebody from the council, but you put it on the agenda.
A motion can be remade. It isn't barred from being made simply because it's on the table. A motion can be removed from the table, but a motion can also be made. There's no prohibition that once it's on the table, it can't be, that the motion can't be made.
Correct. And what I'm trying to say, Dave, is I was under the impression after I read the rules that it has to be verbally put up on, back up off the table, whereas the mayor is in charge of the agenda according to the charter,
Right.
and he's automatically put it there.
Understand, a motion has been made and seconded.
Now, because he put it on the agenda.
Well, whether you put it on the agenda or not, a motion has been made, and it's been made and seconded by a council member. So there is no prohibition. You don't have to bring a motion that's been tabled. It's not the only way that you can restore it. A person can make a motion at any point. I mean, the mayor put on the agenda, it was then, if no one had made the motion and no one had seconded it,
I understand.
then it wouldn't, but there is no parliamentary.
And I would just add that I've made a nomination. Only a single person has been nominated by me, and I understand that there's a lot of back and forth about potential other candidates. who had been already interviewed. But I've made a nomination. The nomination that I made is what's the subject of our motion. Yes, Scott?
Talking about petitioners, are you that scared to hear from them? Is that why you moved this? Because to me, the most important thing is that this city belongs to the city residents and they should have a say in it. So it doesn't, if I gotta sit here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to listen to what they have to say, to me, that holds a lot of weight. And it could influence my vote. Because as I sit here right now, I don't know how I'm voting.
Right. So with that, given the fact that that's likely to affect your vote one way or the other, Scott, I hear that. And we will hear from petitioners and we will move back to, so I have to, I'm sorry, to do this properly.
You got a motion,
We have a motion on the
made and
table.
seconded, so there either has to be a consensus to remove the motion, or something has to be
That's
done to take care of the motion.
Do I have a consensus to remove or to continue on?
To continue on with the vote
Yes,
or with the petition?
Or you're saying remove so that we could do the,
provide the petitioners an
oh, well then
opportunity.
we're gonna provide them time and then we'll come back to the vote, so.
So do we have a consensus that we'd like to provide the petitioners
Yes.
time to address this? Is that what we're saying, then we'll come back to
In which
that?
case, we need withdrawal of the second, and withdrawal of the motion.
Can we just table it and take it off the table?
You can, then you have to vote on it. If there's consensus to remove it by the person who made the motion, and consensus to remove it by the second,
Oh,
you can, then you can do that, and then the motion is not made until it were not made.
So you guys need to say that it's okay.
I don't know who seconded it.
I'm saying, okay, I'm not clear to what I would agree to.
Oh, just withdrawing the motion for now, so we can take petitioners first, and
And
then
then vote.
removing it after.
I just want to remind the council, this is an appointment, it's not an election. This is not an election. The election is in November. This is an appointment, we are voting on the appointment.
For 7 months.
For
With
7
elec-
months,
With an
until
election in
November.
5 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mark, no, I agree, I just feel like I would just feel more comfortable, and maybe other council members, with the petitioners, because you probably will see support too, because all of it's helpful, just
Sure.
for people to have their word, that's all.
So do we have a consensus that we do want to rescind the motion? Is that the proper terminology?
Yes, the second would have to rescind, and the primary mover would have to rescind.
So the second was Shannon, and the primary was Cecilia.
I'm not comfortable rescinding. This is an appointment. We've gotten plenty of notices from both pro and I guess against the appointment.
All right? So if that is where we stand, then we'll continue with the discussion of the
There could be a
motion.
motion to table.
There could be, I'm sorry, say again, please?
There could also be a motion to table.
There can also be a motion to table.
Which is my thing, I guess.
Just I looked at you.
So you make a motion to table?
Sure.
Motion to table, seconded by Scott.
And it's a
And
non-debatable motion for call the roll.
Councilmember
Thank you,
Walsh.
thank you, Vicky.
To be clear, what is the call?
To table
Just
the
to
motion
table.
until after the
On the other
petitioners.
side of our petitioners.
I'm happy to take it off the table after the petitioners.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's my intention for the room. And the recorder.
All right, calling the roll.
Councilmember Walsh Russo? Yes. Councilmember McHugh?
Yes.
Councilmember Lepardue?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Wooden?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes. Okay. The caveat being that we will open the floor to petitioners. We will then hopefully on table, we'll have the nomination, we'll have that motion. If it makes sense, we'll then move into correspondence, but there's a lot of correspondence and it may be moot. So with that, it will open the floor to petitioners. And
Maybe just a quick
Yes.
suggestion that some of the people I think who have written correspondence might be here, and if they speak, maybe we don't need to read their correspondence.
yeah, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I'm gonna give everyone their 3 minutes, however they want to use it. I will again let you know at the 2-minute mark where you're at. I'll let you know at the 1-minute mark where you're at. the 30-second mark where you're at. If you hit that 3 minutes, I'll give you a friendly tap. After about 10 or 15 seconds beyond that, though, it'll be that and we're done. Okay, so you'll please introduce yourself and tell us where you live, and then you'll have those 3 minutes, and you can either speak from your position in the gallery, or you can speak from the podium. And if you have any materials that you're looking to hand out, you'll hand them to Don. He'll share them with the council. So with that, petitioners, yes.
My name is Stacy Mitchell. I'm a resident of the First Ward, and I live at 9 Hickory Street. I am here in support of the nomination of Elaine for First Council. I know there is a lot of division, and it's painful to watch some of these committee meetings, and somehow Elaine's been thrown in the middle. And I really hope that when you come to vote, that she doesn't remain a pawn in this fight. I know there are big issues that this council and you mayor are facing, and I truly believe that Elaine will be a voice for unity, togetherness. She's passionate. She has issues that she's passionate about in this community, and at the same time, from my experience in working with her, she will listen to all sides. I think she really is someone that is kind and compassionate in all her correspondence, even with people she disagrees with. And I know this because in my profession, I report to a board of trustees, and she is on that board of trustees. She is a board member, and hence that board of trustees is my supervisory body. And I've just seen her in action time and time again in my time here in Oneonta, and seeing this passion and kindness and a spirit of unity amongst diverse opinions. And I really hope that this council votes for her affirmation. I think she deserves it. I think our community deserves her. I know there's people with other talents that are interested in this position, and when election day comes, those voices will come out, and I think she is a phenomenal appointment. I can't say enough positive things about her, and I really, really hope this council votes for her. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we somebody else who'd like to speak? Yes.
Hi everyone, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sean Moundis. I reside in the 8th Ward here in the city of Oneonta. I came to Oneonta about a year ago with my husband to set roots in our first home that we bought together, and have experienced the advantages that close community living can offer. We're looking forward to growing our family further, and my in-laws are excited to move into their new home in the region this very month. Like many people, I was disheartened to learn about the delay of the vote that has left a vacancy on council. Elaine Mosher-Campoli is a board member of the church, as Stacey has noted, UUSO, and of which I'm a member as well. And Elaine has been super welcoming to not only my family and me, but also to other people in the area who are looking to move to Oneonta. Her leadership in not only UUSO, but also OPA, as evidenced by the very recent and successful Oneonta Pride Fest, as well as her work with people with disabilities, is done compassionately, creatively, and humbly with a focus on cultural responsiveness. As maybe some people know, Elaine has lived in this area in Oneonta for over 20 years, and this city and region has meant a lot to her, and she's invested a lot of time and energy. I think she will continue to bring those skills as a member of council. So in summary, I strongly support Elaine's nomination for council and request that you do the same. Thank you for your compassionate consideration.
Thank you very much. Have we somebody else who'd like to speak? Yes.
My name is Chris Wolfgold. I'm a family doctor in Oneonta. I live on Monroe Avenue. And I'm kind of I'm pleased that so many people want to run for the position or want to take the position. It's great to have all of you doing public service and Elaine, other people. I've known Elaine for about 20 years. We taught our religious education at the Unitarian Society. She was great working with youth. She was a wonderful person. She works with groups very well. And when I heard that she was going to be possibly appointed to the council, I thought this was a great choice. I support Mark in his choice. I know of no reason why she shouldn't be accepted. Obviously, there's some conflict. This should be, played out in the election that's coming up soon. So if people feel very strongly that somebody else should have been appointed, then I think he or she should run, and you can go out and campaign and vote for him. But Elaine's a wonderful person. She's a great asset to our community. There's no reason why I can think that we wouldn't want to appoint her per the usual protocol. So I want Bryce and Ken and everybody to vote for her. It's a very reasonable choice.
Very much. Have we anyone else who'd like to speak?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jim Phillips. I live in Ward 1, 18 Forest Avenue. I've known Rick for more than 20 years. He's a local resident, born and raised here. I've worked with a lot of people in this area. I spent over 50 years in public service. My last federal agency was U.S. District Court, Northern District of New York, and I left to go to the state. I had 30 years there. I searched for talent. I've educated people, sent them to school, developed their skills. This is a talented person. You're going to miss an opportunity here, and you need to choose wisely.
Thank you. Have anybody else who'd like to speak? Yes.
I'm Brian Shaughnessy. I live in the 1st Ward, 6 North Belmont Circle. I'm here to show support for Rick Brands. There's concern in the community that Elaine was picked because of her staunch support for the RSS project, and the vote is scheduled for October. So I'm really hoping that if Elaine is going to be the nominee, that she's willing to listen to the 1st Ward residents and really do what the majority of the 1st Ward residents want to do. It's I know she's led a petition. I think she's organized a letter writing campaign, but I'm hoping that she's open-minded on the RSS project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else would like to speak? All right then, seeing, yes?
I'm Dr. McKay. I live at 7 Normal Avenue, and I've lived here for 20 years. And I want to thank the council for your hard work. This is a really hard job, and the mayor, and I really appreciate all that you do. And I'm really excited to see you getting an opportunity to vote on somebody of the quality of Elaine. She's the most important thing about her is that she is not, as I am, gets all caught up in the issue and forgets the people, like sometimes I do that. She does not. She is always willing to compromise. She listens to the facts. She works well with others and tries hard to make things come out for the best for everyone. I don't think you could have a better choice.
Thank you very much. Have we anyone else? All right, in that case, we're going to close out the petitioners section. We'll come back to our public hearings and some correspondence. But at this point, we will say.
I'd like to move to untable motion number 1.
Second? Bryce? So then we are, David, correct me if I'm wrong, we're back in discussion. As the motion's been on table, do I need to read it again?
Vote removed from the table.
Vote's been removed from the table, so I will be.
There has to be, there has not been a vote to remove it from the table. There's been a motion and a second to remove it from the table. Now it has to be a vote.
I see, okay. Thank you, David.
Councilmember Walsh Russo?
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh?
Aye.
Councilmember LaPartie?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
This is to, well,
Untable.
On the table.
yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Wooden?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
Now, David, just your advice. Can we launch right back into discussion, or does the motion need to be read again first?
The motion's been removed from the table, it's already been made and seconded.
So we're good for discussion.
You're good for discussion.
Thank you, David.
Sure.
So we're back to discussion. Yes, Scott?
So you know how important this is. My mind has actually been changed.
Okay.
Okay? So that's why I think it's important to always have the public be able to speak.
Thank you, Scott.
Secondly is, the hard part for me with this whole thing is we're installing somebody that people didn't get a chance to vote on. And that's not an easy vote to make. This is us telling somebody who your representative is gonna be. You took, because of a vacancy. This isn't about somebody's character for me. This isn't about a party. This is about trying to make the best decision I can to put somebody in office that's gonna represent the people. So, I want everybody to be that in mind is, I'm not favoring one candidate over the other. I believe that what we do here should not have any outcome or weigh on any election that's gonna happen in November. But we do need to have representation for the members of the first ward. So I just want that when it comes to my vote, that everybody hears that we need to have somebody there. And it's not favor one or the other. No matter who gets in the chair, even after November, I will work with, because that's my job.
Scott? Anybody else?
I have a question. I think I asked this last time around. Are we sure that the candidates can get on the ballot in November? And candidates still have time to do that?
Do they have time? Yes. Whether they'll get on, whether they have enough signatures to get on, whether they're nominated by a party or not, we can't guarantee that anyone will be on the ballot. We still have to do that, but yes, there's sufficient time for anyone to be on the ballot, regardless of anybody here or not, as long as they're a resident of the ward, and they get petitions and they're filed with the Board of Elections, they can be on the ballot.
Because I thought there was a deadline.
There is a deadline, but the deadline has not yet come to fruition.
Thank you.
Glenn?
I think a lot of folks thought that this was a mini election. There was two candidates here, and that you thought that you're basically trying to create an election, and that's not the process. What I have concerns is similar to what was spoken tonight, is that will the individual that has been nominated by the mayor have neutrality with regards to issues? She is not representing the 1,600 plus that are in the first ward. She's been selected by the mayor. And that's the difference between an election and not having an election, is that you might feel a sense of obligation to one person instead of the 1,600. And so, as Scott said, that this is a difficult vote to have, is that we're actually forcing a person onto the first ward. And so I think those that have been maybe in a different career field that have now been selected and put on this side of the council chambers is finding out that it's not that easy. And that your phone and that your emails and every place that you go in the city voting on as a public servant, you are to listen to the people, whether they're from the first ward or from the other wards. And so that's where, for me, lies the problem, is that the nomination from the mayor has come out so strongly on one side. I'm concerned that the first ward residents will not all be heard. I'm hearing the people that gave testimony on her behalf that she is of that mindset. But just a simple poll of the 6 people that stood up tonight to give their verbal petition, 2 are from the first ward for Elaine, 2 are from the first ward for Rick, and 2 are not from the first ward. And so I think that's what you're going to foresee come election time. I think you're going to see a lot of folks coming out, which is great, considering nobody wanted to really run last time in the first ward. So I guess it takes a an event like this to get people in the first ward riled up, congratulations, now you might end up doing like a Lower Decker, to my right here, where they're very passionate about politics. So, please understand that this is a difficult vote, because we are mandating someone into the first ward.
Yes.
I would just like to point out that none of this conversation took place with the 2 other additional appointments that we had this term so far. So I'm just curious, what is it particular about this particular candidate, Len, that you find so egregious?
It's not the candidate.
It's an appointment, and a candidate is a
It's the
misnomer.
process.
This is an appointment.
It's
She is not a
process,
candidate.
because those that have been appointed will tell you, and if they haven't told you, they've told me, they feel an obligation towards the mayor in this. That there's certain quid pro quo areas that have come to light.
I think you could make that argument very easily for every single appointment the mayor has made. It is under the charter for the mayor to make appointments. This is not, again, an election. She is not a candidate. And I say she, I apologize for referring to you. You're sitting right there.
Let me also add, thank you very much for that. Let me also add that there was correspondence I sent to all the council, and I don't know that everyone has had an opportunity to read that. And in reference to the point that one of our petitioners made, the 27 Market Street RSS, the affordable housing that is has been a divisive issue, and I think everyone knows where I am on that, and everyone knows in fact where Elaine is on that, and everyone knew where in fact Luke Murphy was on that. It's there's very little daylight between our thinking on that. However, it is an issue that I feel deserves the light of day in a contest. If you're going to run for the council come this November, and if you're going to run for the council this November, I think it would be a wonderful thing for that to be discussed, and that the first ward residents weigh in on that, and you are provided what direction they may, given what their vote might be. And so what I asked council to consider in this correspondence a little bit earlier today was that we would refrain from discussion or vote of 27 Market Street through the remainder of this year, and allow someone coming in, having been duly elected, to weigh in with their vote as a representative of majority voting in that first ward. So that was something that was sent. It doesn't sound like everyone read that today, but that should take some of the onus that you're concerned about how someone's loyalty to me might be affecting of their decision. I don't believe that, knowing Elaine, that that's really an issue. I think she's fairly her own person, but just so that you all know that that's one of the concessions that I felt needed to get made, and we're just talking about a 3 or 4 month delay on that, and frankly, I think that the conversation warrants having that extra time.
So this is correspondence that you sent out to the council?
Yes.
Today?
Yes, that's right.
Not prior to our common council meeting 2 weeks ago,
No, today.
where somebody tabled this because of these issues.
Well, it wasn't.
This is about the
It was not
correspondence.
made clear. It was not made clear.
Mark,
what
this
the
is
issue-
about the correspondence between you as the mayor and this council, and that's my point, Cecilia, is that this lack of communication between the mayor and this council.
Luke Murphy, who represented this ward for 5 years, 4.5 years, was in full support of Elaine's appointment. To me, that speaks volumes, regardless of the mayor's communication with us. And his last words to the council after 4.5 years of service was, shame on you for not pushing forward Elaine's name as an appointment for 7 months. 7 months, that's it.
But you do realize that she has the ability to listen or not to listen to her constituents on that particular issue. The issue that you just corresponded to us about today.
As a representative of her ward and her appointment by the mayor, the responsibility is for her to listen. So the question of whether or not someone will or will not remains to be seen. It is the appointment that Luke Murphy, as the representative, was in support of, full support, and he corresponded that to us. So this is bewildering to me this conversation.
Rice.
It has been since last.
Given the both here, just like in the middle, I will say this. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't have offered to table because it just wasn't needed. I will say though, it felt good though, tabling it and getting the feedback from First Ward residents and be able to show up tonight with a lot of emails and data in support of Elaine. And that was a huge thing for me with those conversations. Yes, there were for, Rick too, but that's huge and getting that data to be able to say that. So I think I'm just letting the council and the city know that was a big thing for me. Not saying that it's fair, but at the same time, I know the city residents and I know the city. And I didn't think that it would be fair for Elaine to go in a position last week into council with some people assuming because of one issue. The body of work and the recommendations should not be a decision on one thing. But let's just be real, that's what was gonna happen. So we need to have those tough, difficult conversations and sometimes do tough things and table things. There, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Appreciate that, Bryce. Anybody else? Okay, I think we can take a vote.
Councilmember Welch Russo?
Yes?
Councilmember McKee?
Yes.
Councilmember Lepari Shu?
Aye.
Councilmember Carson?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington?
Yes.
Councilmember Wood?
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson?
Yes.
Now, what I would like to do, although it's not on the agenda, do we bring the Constitution? And do you have somebody? There you go. I would like to swear in our council member. So.
And she will be right.
All right, so, you is the Constitution, all right, and you put your left hand on the Constitution. I guess I'm gonna get on the other side. I've done this a couple of times, do you think I would know? Your right hand, and if you repeat after me. I, Elaine Campoli,
Campoli,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Charter of the City of Oneonta,
the Charter of the City of Oneonta,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of council member
of the office of council member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Oh, you have to sign. You have to sign your book.
Okay.
Elaine?
Okay.
Let me, you want me to walk it over?
Of course, thank you.
She can walk over, I'd rather
Yeah.
carry.
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
Nothing personal there.
So,
I'd rather carry.
Carrie, you're in charge. Nothing personal, take
Nothing
it.
personal.
Yes. Both, right?
You're looking fine. Take care. All right. So, public hearings. So there's a public hearing before the mayor to receive comments on an ordinance modifying chapter 21 of the City of Oneonta Municipal Code entitled Ethics Code of. The ordinance was approved by the Common Council on May 21st, 2024. And that's it, right? We've got, that's my first. I have two of them. So, is there anyone who would like to speak on this, this public hearing? I see that there's no one, and so we move on to our second item. There's a public hearing before the mayor to receive comments on a local law amending the City of Oneonta Charter to include the Finance and Human Resources Committee as one of the chartered committees, boards, and commissions of the city. This local law was approved by Common Council on May 21st, 2024. Is anyone who would like to speak to that? All right, then we will close the public hearing. Now, given that a lot of correspondence centered on our first ward nominee, we've set that aside. We do have a couple of correspondences, and if the clerk will please read those.
All right. For Common Council on June 4th, 2024, I want to be able to fully participate in city government. Right now, it's an iffy proposition. If I tune into YouTube for meetings, there might be a closed captioning in real time, or maybe not. Sometimes the captioning shows up a couple of days later. At least once there was no video. Another time the audio was so faint that YouTube could generate only spotty subtitles. I never know what to expect. If I attend meetings in person, I can't hear many of the people speaking. The mics, even with the addition of the new one in the middle of the room, don't pick up everyone's voices. I want a user-friendly website. If I Google City of Oneonta Common Council Calendar 2024, I am directed to a calendar that is obsolete. It is still populated with current meeting dates, but the start time is listed as 7. When I first arrived in the city, I was late for my first meeting or two, understandably, until someone enlightened me that meetings start at 6 p.m. Additionally, when I apply a precise amount of filters to get minutes, I get directed erroneously to an employee portal. Finding any information I'm looking for is almost always overly challenging. The city recently allocated $25,000 in rather short order for a planner for Oneonta's Renaissance. I'd rather the money be spent on a staff position for implementing ADA compliance, like mics for everyone, monitoring, and setting up YouTube consistently and for website improvements. I don't want a Renaissance party. I want a functional, compliant city government first. I have the right to be able to fully participate in city government, and it's the law. From Maureen Daly. Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, City of Oneonta Common Council, care of Carrie Harrington, City Clerk, Oneonta, New York, regarding human resources. Council members. An effective and efficient human resources department provides assistance to department heads and their employees with required trainings, manpower studies, labor dispute resolution, employee wellness, retirement, retiree support, civil service support, among many other functions, as well as being available for employees. For several years, the Human Resources Department for the City of Oneonta has been short-staffed and unable to provide the day-to-day services that city employees deserve. In multiple instances, employees have either not been able to make contact with or have had to wait an extended period of time to receive assistance and/or guidance from the Human Resources Department. This is not at all a reflection on any personnel working there. There are just not enough hours in the day for the limited staff to address employee needs. Clearly, the model that has been used for as long as we can remember is no longer working for the employees of the City of Oneonta. We believe it is time for a change. Senior Human Resources Specialist David Corey has presented to the Council a plan that he believes will restructure the Human Resources Department to provide the level of service each city employee requires and deserves. As union leaders, we completely support the proposal from Mr. Corey. We believe the proposed plan will allow for a much greater level of support for all current city employees, as well as provide much-needed support for recruiting and retention. A strong Human Resources Department shows employees that a municipality cares about them and fosters a feeling of belonging and loyalty. We believe the proposed plan will make the City of Oneonta Human Resources Department stronger and more efficient, and support the Council adopting Mr. Corey's proposal. Sincerely, Joseph Tiemann, Sergeants Union President, Lucas Hardy, Oneonta PPA President, and Timothy Kuzo, CSCA President.
Thank you very much. Any other correspondence?
Not that was not related to the first
Oh,
one.
very good, so thank you very much. And we will move now on to our boards and commissions and task forces. I again have not heard from any of the liaisons, from any of those that there's anything that they want to report to council. So we will bypass that and move to our committee reports, beginning with the report from the Legislative Committee and Councilmember Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. And that Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m., we briefly discussed film permits and decided that it would be best if we asked the clerk to send out correspondence to experts within the film industry that reside locally, and decided to do that. they're gonna be coming back at the next meeting. We moved on into the fee schedule, which I thought was good exercise with city staff and for the elected officials to work together and go through the fee schedule. There was quite a few items that were removed, and there was ample discussion on each item before it was removed, both by the elected and by the city staff. It's not finalized, but I think we're in the final stretches for the fee schedule, and then we'll go back and listen to folks on the film permit. Hopefully we can get both of those wrapped up in the next meeting.
Any questions or comments? So I would just add one. I sent some correspondence about a week ago in which I addressed the issue of the charter's vagueness around the selection of and nomination of someone that might need to fill a council position when those vacancies occur. As an attachment to that, I provided some, I'd done a little bit of research and quite honestly was assisted by AI, it's a good tool, and provided a bit of a roadmap for discussion of maybe some processes that will define how the selection process and the council's input and the community's input into all of that would occur moving forward. So I would just ask, I know you've got a very full agenda at legislative, but if you have an opportunity to add that to your agenda, you'll find, and if you don't have the attachment, I can resend it. But I feel like it's I think it's clear that there is some value in having an agreed upon process that the council adheres to. So, and the mayor adheres to. So with that, if there's any other questions or comments for Councilmember Carson, we'll say thank you very much and move on to our Quality of Life and Infrastructure Committee and Councilmember Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. We met on the 29th. Had a lengthy discussion on a couple of topics. First topic we talked about was Wilbur Park projects. Greg reported about our county funds that we received for the basketball court stuff. They were nice, we got them done. They're in the process of finishing, hanging up the basketball and hoops, if I remember right. We repurposed the ones that we took from the lower part to put up to the second, up to the upper part, right?
In part, yes.
Okay.
That's done, but there's still playground shade structures.
In the playground stage structures still have to be put up yet. We started talking about the Wilbur pool and parking lot, try to make it more accessible. We asked the Park and Recs to weigh in on that, see how that fits in with the master's plan, because member Moshe Russo brought up a concern that she has been hearing in her ward about walkability in the lower section of Wilbur Park. And so we wanted an overall discussion of, if we're gonna spend money, what's the best way of doing it to meet the needs of what we need down there. Once again, I brought up the idea of a solar cover or something for the pool to try to get more use out of the pool, because it's only open about a month and a half. You know, maybe we could actually get more people to use it if it was a little bit warmer, because one of the things we always get told is it's cold. So, we did talk about the East Street parking lot security cameras, as what was requested of us. The chief came in, his first words emphasized was the fan. He really would like to see us try to get some security cameras down in there to help them out for enforcement, for not just that parking lot, but for, you know, a lot of things that might happen around the area that they could utilize that for. So in our discussion, Greg likes his strategic plan, and he said, how about we put it there so that the council can weigh on it as a whole council, and we agreed with that. That was the appropriate spot for it, so we can see whereabouts on the strategic plan and priority list. So I want to try to make the cameras for that. I got a brief update on our speed study. The speed study is going across the city and trying to indicate where there might be speeding problems, because if we can lower the speed limit within the city by what the state will allow us to, you got to have a speed study to back all that up. It's ongoing. Our police department, I believe, is the one doing that with the cameras that radar units that we bought them. So thank you to our police department for taking that on. We also had a comprehensive plan funding opportunity discussed with us. Our last plan was done in 2019. There's a 10% match. Then you can apply up to $150,000. Steve Yearley, our codes enforcement officer, and Judy, I think she's over here. Judy, I think it's probably a good time to try to update that plan since it's from 2019. So I believe that's gonna be part of the 2025 budget discussion, to see if we would like to do that. We did talk about paid parking implementation. Didn't really get too far with that one. We're gonna have to revisit that one. It's kind of a heated topic, even amongst the committee. Trying to do the right thing to free up the parking for our businesses on Main Street. What's the best way of doing it? Also, we talked a little bit about the parking task force again. Greg is spearheading that in the parking task force. I think he asked Don if Don would like to be on that, the meeting, which I think would be a.
I invited the whole committee.
Oh, yeah, the whole committee, yes, the whole committee. I'm already on there, so the whole committee can be on there, so we can discuss that. And we did talk about brush and yard waste because I did have somebody reach out to me concerned. She remembers back when it was two times a month that were picked up. Currently, we're about a month. Every month, the wards get picked up, and they're broken up into, I think it's 8 wards, so four wards apiece. DPW Director Chris Yakabuchi was there, and he started giving us quick numbers of if we went to, what it would look like if we went to two times within the month. And we said that's a bigger discussion in our committee. That's something that the strategic plan or the council during 2025 budget plan should look at because of the way we have to redistribute manpower and how much it's going to cost. And cost versus benefit, and then there's also some other projects they're looking into there, some different ideas of maybe way that we could open up the commercial waste and stuff like that, maybe make some money and work with some other private public partnerships that way. And if I forgot something, I am sorry, I think that's it.
A light agenda. All right, any questions or comments for Scott? Okay, well, again, thank you very much, Scott. And we will move on now to the approval of the warrants with motion number 2, that the Common Council approve the warrants totaling $894,130.82 and that the city be placed on Director of Finance's successful payment as presented. Do I have a motion to approve? So Don, followed by Don, we'll say. Okay. And
Councilmember Roger Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McKinney.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Wooden.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendelson.
Yes.
all right. We had a late request to remove motion number 6 from the consent agenda, and I will, but I want to remind council that while it's true, the narrative and the draft agenda was late coming, it's a long weekend and things took a bit longer to happen. We'd like to see if we can have whatever modifications are looked for within the context of the consent agenda to be something that arrives on the clerk's desk by, early afternoon on Friday. Is that about when we're looking at? Aiming for noon. So again, I'm going to pull this time and we'll move to discussion, but if we're able.
So the request has to be made on Friday?
Ideally, yes. So we are trying to get that out to folks as early in the day on Wednesday as possible. And I think it was early in the day on Wednesday, like 1 a.m. technically Thursday.
I don't know all the particulars.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So just as a point of reference. So we will look at the consent agenda as motions 3, 4, and 5, and I'll ask if there's a motion to approve.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yes, Scott, followed by Don. Because it's a consent agenda, there's no reason for discussion, so we'll take the vote.
Councilmember Moser Conforto.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McKay.
Aye.
Councilmember LaFarge.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Wooden.
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson.
Yes.
Great, well, we're gonna lead off with that motion number 6 that had been pulled, which is that motion that the common council approves, this is now discussion, approves the following resolution: City of Oneonta resolution intent to declare lead agency in seeker review, whereas 6 NYCRR Part 617 of the State Environmental Review Law requires that a lead agency be established for conducting environmental review of projects in accordance with local and state environmental law, and whereas state law specifies that for actions governed by local environmental review, the lead agency shall be that local agency which has primary responsibility for approving and funding or carrying out the action, and whereas on September 29th, 2023, the City of Oneonta and the Town of Oneonta entered into an intermunicipal agreement to implement the Oneonta Route 23 and 28 Complete Streets Project, and whereas the City of Oneonta was awarded a Transportation Alternatives Program grant by the New York State Department of Transportation, NYSDOT, and whereas this project will improve safety, mobility, pedestrian and bicycle accessibility, and community connectivity along the James F. Lettis and Leslie G. Foster Highway, New York Route 28 and New York Route 23 in the city and town of Oneonta, which may include additional sidewalks, shared use paths, lighting, signing, and other improvements, and whereas this is an unlisted action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is SECRA, which requires review, therefore be it resolved that the City of Oneonta Common Council, by way of this resolution, is declaring its intent to act as lead agency in environmental review for the proposed Oneonta 23 and 28 Complete Streets project. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Elaine, followed by?
Second.
Second by Katie, and discussion.
I have a couple of questions. What does this exactly mean, and what would the consequences be if the council does not take the lead?
So, given that the city is the applicant, and we're the applicant for the grant, we're the holders of the grant, so we're doing the project, it's our consultant that's designing it as opposed to the town. The town has entered an agreement with us, and it's the city that's doing the bulk of the work. It kind of makes sense that the city would take the lead on that. The town would have 30 days, as would any other interested party, which might be DOT itself, it might be DEC, it might be Otsego County, would have 30 days after the council theoretically passes this motion to express their interest in being a lead agency. And then it could, I've actually never seen that happen, David, I don't know what happens then, and how you can make that determination, who leads. But ultimately, whoever leads the process would go through seeker, and the end result would theoretically most likely be the same.
The presumption is that the person who wants, the entity that wants to do the project also is the entity that would be most appropriate to do the environmental impact.
Yeah. What wasn't mentioned in the motion is that, my understanding is the idea is to reduce the Lettis Highway from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, is that correct?
That's an alternative that's being looked at. So that part, we talked, I think I mentioned in the memo, there will be a presentation that will be scheduled for the next council meeting, June 18th. That will explain what the alternatives are, we'll see maps, and a really much better understanding of what the 2 alternatives that are being looked at are. The design is at a draft stage right now, it's under review by DOT. It's not something that's ready to go construction yet. So based on your understanding, after June 18th, that presentation, then we'll go through in July, we'll actually do the seeker process, presuming no one else steps forward to be the lead agency.
My preference would be that the council is not the lead agency, because I have some questions about the whole project and the cost. I haven't seen any traffic study.
I understand this has nothing to do with approval of the project or the budgeting of the project.
I understand
The
that.
environmental impact.
I understand that, but I just wanted to make a point. Can I do
I
that?
want to make sure that you were clear on what the process is.
Yes, I understand. But before we go too far down the road here, I want to express an opinion. And actually, so I went on Saturday, May 4th, from 11:30 to noon. It was 66 degrees and partly cloudy. I went to count cars, pedestrians, and bicyclists. And I thought that would be a good time where there'd be a maximum amount of pedestrian traffic. So I counted 867 vehicles, mostly cars, some trucks, 3 walkers, and 2 bikers. So it's like 0.5% of the traffic was walkers and bikers. And if we're talking about the potential to reduce the vehicle capacity by 50%, I just don't see that. Why would we do that? The other concern I have is this would be a very expensive project, and we would have to borrow money, bond it, and that would add to our debt payments every year. So I'm not so sure we should do anything until we fully understand what we want to do or the options that we have and what the consequences financially would be.
I would just like to add that I think that maybe we should hire an outside set of eyes to see what those numbers are. Because I personally see families booking it down there, and I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, should I pick them up? Like, what should I do?
I've walked it and taken my bike down there a few times.
Yeah.
And I agree, we need a traffic study.
We need something, but I think that maybe if we have like someone who's targeted that sits down there, counts numbers and bodies and stuff, but like something does need to happen, but I think we need more eyes.
I didn't hear the last sentence.
More eyes, different eyes that are
I
there
agree completely.
consistently.
Absolutely.
To be clear, though, we're voting
This
on.
is just the environmental piece.
That's correct, and lead agency in that environmental review.
It's the start of a process, and I don't want to start the process until we have more information. I'm one of 8 votes.
Yeah. Further discussion? Okay, shall we take a vote?
Councilmember Moser Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Welch Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember
Aye.
Councilmember LaParisio.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Wooden.
Yes.
Councilmember Matheson.
No.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. And we'll move to the city administrator's report. Brett?
Anyone on the east end may have happily noticed that the Glenwood Creek construction project, the culvert replacement project, has been completed. The street is open as of this afternoon. So thank you to First Ward residents and anyone traveling through there that had to endure the traffic detour. Chief, you and your neighbors, thank you. Market Street Transportation Improvements Projects, quick update. Obviously, the parking garage demolition phase is complete. That contractor has moved off the site. Boland is the site utilities contractor for the next phase at 47 Market. They're starting to move onto the site. Upstate Companies continues their work on Market Street, the reconstruction project. Verizon and Charter, commonly known as Spectrum, have provided costs to relocate their utilities out of the way, the new transit hub improvements. That's motions that are on our agenda tonight. And sidewalk and curb replacement, DPW has gotten pricing for a contractor working in conjunction with DPW crews to replace sidewalk, approximately 480 feet of sidewalk on Park Ave in 6th Ward. It's in poor condition. There are also some curb projects that will be done in the next month or so, one on Monroe Ave and one on Cedar Street. The city has a grant for a single-family housing rehab program. This is for income-eligible owners of single-family homes. Our grant administration consultant on this project, Home and Development, has sent postcards to the owners who had previously self-identified as being interested in the program to gauge their current interest. That original survey was done leading up to the application for this grant. More public outreach is forthcoming and will include directions to the interested applicants to contact Home and Development. The local waterfront revitalization plan, LWRP, will be that continues, and we've had a advisory committee that's been working on that for some time now with city staff and our consultant. There's a design charrette and open house. It's been scheduled for June 24th from 4:30 PM to 7 PM at St. James Church. That's in the gym area in the back. We've sent postcards to all property owners within the watershed revitalization area, which is quite a big area. If you're interested in learning more, we'll be putting information on our.
We will send.
Oh, we haven't yet?
We haven't yet.
There, I forget how many, hundreds, 300 something?
300 and something, and they'll be coming in soon.
Thanks. We'll also advertise this on social media, so anyone from the public is welcome to attend as well. You don't have to be there for 2.5 hours. You can come anytime during that 4:30 to 7 PM window, learn about the project, share your input on what projects you'd like to see, what activities you'd like to see in that area. Generally speaking, it's anything along the Susquehanna River in both the city and the town of Oneonta. I didn't mention this is a city and town joint project, as well as along Oneonta Creek up to Wilbur Lake, the upper reservoir, as well as the west end of Otsego Creek.
Up to the Hem Street Park in the town.
Yes, thanks. The CDBG lead water service replacement grant. We have only so far 2 homeowners who are processing and should hopefully be having a contractor scheduled to replace their privately owned portion of their lead water services. That hopefully should begin soon. We haven't had as much interest as we would like. There's more funding available. And as a result of that, we talked with the funding agency and they've authorized us to offer replacement of lead galvanized or iron water services. So we're reaching back out to those 135 homeowners who had previously been identified as having services of those type. And then the last thing I had was more of a question for council. We had talked about having a Thursday, June 13th, or a Tuesday, June 25th, special council meeting to discuss the strategic plan. I heard back, unless I missed something, I heard back from Bryce and Don, so they could do either date. Katie, you had said you could do the 25th. I don't believe I saw other responses. Could we talk about that now? I'd like to be able to let the city clerk know how to schedule it.
I didn't respond because I figured that you guys could set it and then I can try to see how I can adjust.
Okay.
So availability is the 13th and the 25th, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, and either 6, 7 PM, whatever time works best.
Yeah, and let's presume 6, then we're gonna be 2 hours. No more. And we'll have additional meetings as we need to.
Hold on, June 13th?
Yes, June 13th and or Thursday.
Thursday or Tuesday. That's fine, those days are fine. The 25th is better for me, but I could make it the 13th.
You have the wrong day. You said what days?
13th or
Is it
25th.
Thursday?
25th, not 25th.
I think Scott, you would try to make either one, but your schedule is a little flexible. Iffy. So
I'm trying to be the good dad and go to all the senior stuff, and I can't remember what it all is, so I gotta get it all on the schedule.
Yeah.
Oh, the boss is coming. So I guess either day.
So we're good?
Right now, I do currently have, like, I know I have work on the 13th.
Okay.
So the 25th would be better if we're going to pick, and I will try to.
So Elaine, you're saying the 25th, Cecilia, you're good either day, so the 25th, your preference is the 25th, you're good, the 25th. Scott, we know that you're available.
Yeah.
You're not, either day?
Oh, the 13th.
The 13th. Either or. So you're good on the 25th and you're good on the 25th, so we're 7, are you available by Zoom on the 25th?
Grandsons are in from Minnesota, so.
So potentially, but not necessarily.
To clarify, is it for both, are we meeting both days, or is it a choice between the 13th and the 25th? Because I'm quite clear.
I just suggested 2 dates. I don't know how many dates it will take, how many meetings it might take, but.
Okay.
We decided we're gonna, based on the last conversation in council, that we're going to try to get to the finish line by mid-July, correct?
Yes.
So if we meet on the 25th and we have a productive 2 hours, there may be another meeting, and that'll be determined by how productive we are.
It's at 6.
Could be 6, could be 7.
What time is it?
Yeah, 6 has worked for people for council, it's gotten them out of here, and especially if we just do 2 hours. Some folks might be able to catch a ball game.
Can we try to really hold it to 2 hours for the strategic?
We will, in fact, we will hold it to 2 hours, and we'll get as far as we get. And when we hit that 2 hour mark, if not before, we will determine that, that we carry over if in fact we did.
And that is considered a public meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be advertised, just like any other meeting.
Yes.
All right, so we're saying the 25th at 6 p.m. And if we'll have the Zoom available if you are available.
Yep.
Terrific. Anything else? Great.
June 25th, 6 p.m.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. No, okay, thank you very much, Greg. Anybody have any questions? Yes, you do.
So, kind of two issues together, two questions together, Greg. 47 Market Street parking lot, and then the parking task force. The task force is still current, and you're now asking for council members that are on the quality life to participate in that?
Task force hasn't met in a number of months, quite some time since last summer. Scott was on the task force originally from council, as well as Emily. Given that he stepped down, I thought Don made sense. And then given that we were having a conversation with Click as the pass-through, or I guess the next step from the task force, I asked Cecilia as well. She but I have not reached back out to the committee or the task force yet. Scheduled. So that would be happy to.
So would you be leaning in towards the task force to make decisions with regards to 47 Market Street? Given that, is there a possibility of coordinating off where the transit center is going to go and we can start utilizing some of that parking lot? Is there any discussion on that?
That has been a discussion with Wendell and the contractors at this point. It's kind of too early to say whether that will be possible. It's really a construction and staging thing, so if they're able to open that sooner than the rest of the project, that'd be right.
Yeah, because I mean, I just looking at the fact that tourism is now in full session, and you notice that there's some congestion, people are spending a lot of time looking for parking, and I'd like to help our downtown businesses as much as possible.
I can say for sure it's not gonna happen anytime soon, because as I mentioned, Boland is the next contractor coming to start working on that site, so it will be under active construction right along.
So if we followed Wendell's recommendations, when would it be a possibility then?
The substantial completion date is end of July 2025. If things change between now and then, as far as if the contractor is able to finish that section of it and open something up early, I can't say. That would kind of be a hope, but I can't say.
And then, is there a possibility that we could use interns for the water pipes? If there's 150 some people and we've had poor response to mailings, is there a possibility of having an intern go out and maybe hit the doors and pound on the doors to see if they truly are interested in it? I know staff doesn't have time to do that. Is that a possibility of using an intern?
We've thought about going door to door. There's a lot of issues with that. We have had a lot of response. We've had a lot of people not interested in it. We've had people that, whether we have a lot of multi-unit buildings, and they would have to have 51% of the units be eligible or be for low to moderate income people or low income people. So there's rent thresholds they have to meet. They don't want to deal with that. So the majority of the multi-families are not interested at all, and that's probably close to half of the 135 that we identified. Others aren't eligible, they're not income eligible. They have concerns because it's not a straightforward grant. We put a mortgage on their home, they have to stay in the home for 5 years, and then the grant or the loan amount is forgiven each year for 20% a year until they've stayed for 5 years. We front the money, they don't have to put any money out, but they have concerns that we have a mortgage on the property filed with the county. There's all kinds of issues, so when we start out with 135, there's really not that many in that pool that are eligible, and of those, they're not necessarily interested, which is why we're increasing the types of services that we'll include in the program. We also are going to be starting a lead service inventory project very soon. There's 700 laterals that are not identified, or what the material is. They're going to be looking at those, so as they identify lead, iron, galvanized, they'll be included in our project as well. So we're really hoping we can pull this off. But then going back to the door-to-door, there's so many issues with that. Whether they'll be home when we go, whether we can properly explain it to, I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes they just, go to tenants, they're not gonna be the ones that we need to talk to. The owners may have already, we'd have to clear out the ones that have already contacted us, which is quite a few of them. So we'll look at that again, but I'd really like to do this next step of enlarging the program first and see what kind of response we get for that before we do a door-to-door.
So right now, we only have 2 out of 135 that are enrolling into this.
We've had a number of people contact our grant administrator about it, and they just, for one reason or another, don't want to be involved with it, unfortunately. And it's a common problem with this type of grant, but this is particularly disappointing. But we're hoping we can pull it out.
And then Greg, the last thing I had was, I believe Upstate wasn't supposed to complete Main Street until the 7th, was it? Okay, either way, it seemed like they finished early.
Yeah, they originally were looking at the end of May, and they got pushed back a little bit. Fortunately,
And there were some delays in materials.
and what it was done.
So either way, I thought they did an excellent job. I got to drive that way probably every day.
Just a question about that, actually. Is there a new end date for that project?
Oh, no, it's pretty much done now. There might be some punch list items left over, but the road closure is done. So it's just a matter of finishing up the grant contract.
That's good. Okay, anything further for Greg? All right, my comments I'll keep short and sweet. I want to commend Councilmember Carson and all the folks at the American Legion, a wonderful ceremony in a very illustrious Park Memorial Day. Yes, what day? Memorial Day, yeah, it's where I am anymore. But anyway, the Memorial Day ceremonies I thought were outstanding. Nice job. There was no parade, as many people know, and that had everything to do with the organizer basically moving to Connecticut. He's making some return trips, but certainly not going to take on parade administration, but much to the credit of our community and to Sean Lewis at the Chamber of Commerce, who's coordinating. We have a group of folks that have come together to ensure that we have a 4th of July parade, and it's pretty good. So happy to report that. Also, on the subject of parades, Pride Fest was amazing, and I love that parade. I was happy to be a part of that, and it was a very good day on Main Street. So I just want to commend all the folks that were involved in the production of that. It was, and we have now started the Renaissance. Basically started with the day of Pride Fest, and has now continued on, and all things are starting to click there as well. So we shall see. We're crossing our fingers, and we'll be providing the council with regular reporting. That's about it I've got. So we'll move on to our discussion agenda, and really thank you very much for hanging out here. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Just wanted to add, I think there were 5 vendors today on Dean Street.
Yeah,
It
and
was a
we're
little difficult because of the construction,
right.
going on.
Yeah, so because they're repointing the building, we're going to move the vendors and whatever else we have going on to Muller Plaza. It's currently empty. Purdue takes that over on the 11th. So we're just going to kind of migrate over so that we have a safer and more kind of hospitable place for them to be able to. But
It started,
there's some cool stuff.
vendors today, and it was a little slow, but it started.
Yeah, it started, things, baby steps. Appreciate that, Don. All right, so again, because we've got folks who would like to know, we are going to move on to our discussion agenda item number 7, public safety billing for services provided to community events. And I'm going to let, I think it's probably Len kick this off.
Hey, Mayor. So during the legislative committee meeting, we talked about the fee schedule, and on page 8 of the city's fee schedule is where we started having some conversations about the cost for our departments in fire, police, and Department of Public Service, and the amount of money that is incurred to the taxpayers for special events. And I just wanted to have a public discussion about what those real costs are. So I think this gives us an opportunity tonight, looking at the police chief and the fire chief, they had agreed that they would be able to kind of capture some of those costs. I thought maybe Chris was going to be here tonight also for DPS, but at least we can have some of that conversation, because we have 2 representatives from the 4th of July organization, and this isn't something that we're looking at implementing at 100%, but I think it's something that both city staff and elected and along with organizers should be able to start having a conversation about those costs, because it's just, as we all know, the city of Oneonta is in a difficult position financially. We just don't collect enough revenue for all our operations, so we need to start looking at different ways of our budget. So either you want to go first and just kind of capture it, or?
I'll start from our costs. I ran some numbers from last year, and the personnel that we had in the covering the 4th and Park. So personnel costs alone, including 4 staff members for 10 hours and 2 staff members for 6 hours, and then myself and the assistant chief was $3,116. The equipment costs tallied out, so that's the ambulance, the engine, and our all-terrain vehicle that we use to patrol the park with, was $693. There's some miscellaneous costs that are included in that, so fire line tape. What we do is we tape off a safety zone so that we can have the fireworks and to keep people out. And then a couple other miscellaneous costs, including fuel and stuff, at $388. So a total of $4,197. Last year, we did not bill for that, so my budget had to absorb those costs. And based on the service request form that we have, we should have basically a 4th of July event hits a lot of the boxes on our service request form. And based on all of those checked off, we should have billed $4,950. So.
Wait, 4,197? Wait.
So it costs actual dollars, it costs us $4,197. And then based on the service request form, we should have billed $4,950.
So even if, sorry to speak, but even if we were to bill at 100%, it's not something that we're like hugely profiting off of. It seems like the fees are kind of right on target for that.
Yeah, so a perfect example of that is if we cover a football game for 3 hours, when you put the personnel cost into it and the equipment cost, it would come up to $375 that we should be charging per the service request form, and it's costing us $375.84.
Oh, wow.
So that can vary a little bit based on the staffing that's working it. So if we've got a captain and a senior person, that rate's gonna be higher. or the actual cost is gonna be higher, where if we have two junior people working it, it's obviously gonna be a little lower, so
Makes sense.
that's an average. So again, this is coming directly out of my budget, and then anything that we would charge would go to the general fund, correctly, right? So, and these overtime hours are showing up on my end as an issue for me.
So if we just, here, the police chief.
On average, I think the 4th of July and a lot of the other special events require all hands on deck, depending on staff and staff availability. This year will be low, so clearly we'll have less overtime because we have less staff to work. It's about $7,000 for 4th of July. I think that the conversation here started with who should be billed and guidance on who's getting billed, because if we're looking at this, we've always treated 4th of July as a community event, just like we would with other parades and events. But there's a fee schedule on your side, I'm not sure where it came from. On our side, it was for providing Hartwick specifically with police service. So when we made the presentation, I think the question was, we need guidance as well, but you also need an idea that these events do cost us money as taxpayers for here in the city. And it's not insignificant.
So if you were to correlate between your actual cost of approximately 7,000 to the fee schedule, would that be a pretty good comparison?
Well, I'd have to break it down. There's different, we have assignments in the park, but we also have patrol assignments. And because it's a holiday, we have to expect that there's gonna be additional people that are gonna be on the street that are just gonna cause us extra work, just like we do on the weekends. So it becomes very complicated for us. Do we break it down by, do we start charging the bar district too? Because we have to park cars out on Water Street to provide police coverage for an uptick in college student activity and drinking on the weekends. Is that something where the fraternities now end up getting a bill because we have to respond to their house? So this is a complicated issue. I'm not sure how to parse that out, and I think that the fee schedule itself was listed for specific events. I understand the fire department's got, ALS, BLS, standby. We've never operated like that. We have a two-person vehicle estimate per hour and a single vehicle estimate per hour, and it costed one police officer per hour. But that was specific, and long before my time, to just the Hartwick football games, because it's a private entity, it's not a public entity.
Right. But you can see if you're an organizer and you're coming to Oleana and you want to have the event, we're going to be looking to the police department and say, approximately how much is this going to cost?
That we have that listed as far as what it costs per hour for a police officer and what it costs per hour for a 1- and 2-man car, right? What I can tell you is that for 4th of July, it generally costs us about $7,000, or roughly between $5,000 and $7,000.
And then, Greg, I didn't know if you heard anything from Chris with regards to DPS.
Sorry, no, Chris was out today, yesterday, respectively, but I also wasn't aware that it was more public safety, I apologize, so I didn't look at that myself. We have to look at that.
So I guess just in light of that, we're looking at $12,000, $13,000 for one event. And so we're gonna go back and legislate and discuss it now, but when we bring it up to council, the department heads are asking us, the full council, to recognize and approve, are we going to actually implement all of those fees? So that's part of the discussion process.
So I guess also part of the strategic plan as to whether or not we want to be discouraging activities that add to the quality of life in our city.
Absolutely.
So that's part of the strategic plan, I think, as well.
Right, and then Ginny, did you have enough time to talk with the county treasurer?
No, I was not able to connect. We sent an email back and forth, and he will be contacting me soon.
And so just for the council to know, that Jeannie was gonna talk with the county treasurer and just kind of see if she can get a basis of how much sales tax is generated because of such a large event. So we do want to look at, the business impact of this and what does it mean to the community.
So your next legislative committee meeting is something that you'll be taking this up at. And I know Connie's looking to read something.
I don't know if it's appropriate.
It may not be here, but it might very well be a legislative committee meeting.
I mean, kind of if you feel that the whole council can benefit from
Actually,
your
I do.
perspective, I would.
Yeah.
If that's
then
okay.
please. Yes, it's fine.
I don't want to do anything inappropriate, please. First of all, I wanted to say that I'm Connie Herzig from Hill City Celebrations, also known as First Night Oneonta. And Gabrielle Argo is here also with me. She's our secretary. This organization has for many years put on events in the city to improve the quality of life and to bring people into the city, people that don't maybe live in the city even, but to bring people into the city. We also have alcohol-free, family-friendly events where we want to be celebratory and find healthy ways to celebrate, and that's a big basis of our organization. I'm also obviously a city resident, and I have lived here for many years, and I appreciate all that the city does and has done for our organization as well as other organizations in making the city a welcoming place for people and for organizers of events. Our organization feels very strongly that these community celebrations are community development, economic development. They help people to realize what a lovely community this is and want to live here. Without community celebrations and without community involvement, I feel that the quality of life in our city would be really impaired. We recognize the city's contributions, and we've long recognized the city's contributions in kind to our organization. And we regularly come to council meetings to thank you for services such as electric in the park, the fire and police during the hometown fourth, Neowa Park in general. The parks are a wonderful, wonderful place, and Lou Lanson will be highly missed as the park's supervisor. But we also feel strongly that we do events that build the city up. The city gives us those in-kind services as we've heard about, but our celebrations cost a lot of money. Last year we raised $65,000 to put on our events. And those events include the Festival of Lights, the New Year's Eve celebration, and the 4th of July. We spent all that money on those events. If we had to pay an additional fee, large fee from the city for the services that the city provides, I don't think that we could have our events. I think it would be a 4th of July without a celebration. Previous police and fire chiefs have mentioned and written, we have letters, saying that crime in the city, incidences of crime have gone down when we have these big events, alcohol-free, family-friendly, free admission events. Give people something to do that's important. And I feel that legislating every service with a fee makes the community, it's a pay for play. And somehow that just doesn't resonate with me. However, I do know that paying the bills is important. I pay taxes. I know that what the city pays its employees is important. I know that there's a deficit. I know that taking 1.8 million out of reserves is not sustainable. I don't know the answers. I'm not charged with knowing the answers. Thank goodness. I not like my decisions. My charge, though, is to get you to understand what we do and why we do it. There are 8 of us on the board, all volunteers, no staff. And we put on an event that drew about 12 to 15,000 people last year in a city of 14,000. I cannot imagine that there aren't economic implications in that. And I also cannot imagine that the Festival of Lights, which drew, I have it here somewhere, I think it was 16,000 people, 16,000 cars. Yeah, I may have that number wrong. We did a study and I have it somewhere. At any rate, a whole lot of cars went through that. And I think people are happy in a season of darkness to find light, and we provide that. I don't know if you have any other questions. I've got reams of financial documents. I could let you know what we spend, what we get, who we get it from, but it is a labor of love for our community. Thank you for letting me speak.
And again, just for what it's worth, this is, I think, something that we do discuss in our strategic planning, what the impact of these sorts of quality of life efforts have on the city, both economically and just in terms of the spirit of the city. Yes, Jenny?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Sure, of course.
Is Hill City Celebrations a 501c3?
We are.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had
No,
my
go
hand
ahead,
up.
amend you.
Do you have any suggestions on how to like bridge that? Like, you know that things need to get paid, but have you maybe brainstormed anything yet?
Well, actually, for years, most people in our community have believed that the city of Oneonta puts on our events.
It's true.
The 4th of July, the Festival of Lights, the New Year's Eve. And the city gets a lot of recognition for doing that. And that's fine. I don't, I want the events to happen. I've always believed that the city's in-kind services were appropriate. We get funding from donations from other people who want to see these events happen. People, foundations, I've always felt like this was the city's contribution to having these events that help the city in their quest to, parks should be lived in. A city's services are part of what we pay taxes for. And I've always felt like the city's contributions were appropriate.
Can I go to Ginny real quick?
Sure.
She's been waiting. Go ahead, Ginny.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to speak as the Director of Finance for the city, that I agree with Mrs. Herzig's point of view. That I believe that city-sponsored events that bring in economic development and bring in traffic to our holiday celebrations is a good thing for the city as a whole, for our economic development, for our community development, for people to get to know Oneonta. And I believe that our in-kind services are proper in those situations. However, where we need guidance, and this is my request to the council, is when we are asked to provide law enforcement services or fire protection services at football games or basketball games or something that is held by another entity that is not a citywide community event, that is where we need guidance as far as who are we billing and who are we not. Are we billing SUNY? Are we billing Hartwick? Are we billing the high school? Are we billing the churches? Wherever it is that their request takes them out of a normal community economic development event is where we need the guidance, so we are consistent and fair in who we bill and who we do not bill. that, and I just wanted to share that as a whole to the council and also to the public as far as my viewpoint. But I will go by the council's.
Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate your patience there.
Sure. So I just wanted to know, I know last year we had attempted to institute a fee across all park users, major park users for city-provided restrooms in the park. Is that something that was discussed this year? Can you tell me where we landed? Are we still providing that as well?
That was not implemented last year.
Right.
There was discussion about it, and you were there for that committee meeting. Honestly, our event in the park, we also contract with the restroom provider, and we double it up from what, and it actually costs us, it would cost us more with the fee that was talked about last year, because we get a break from the vendor, and longevity, loyalty, whatever. And so the fee that was talked about last year would, added to what we do already pay, would be more than what we paid in the past, but it wasn't done, so.
Okay. And we didn't do it, I'm assuming from your comment that we didn't do it again this year.
I don't think it came up
We
this
absorbed that into
year.
the budget, right? Because we do have them this year, right? Or did we not do that
No,
yet?
those fees were.
No, but the restrooms, do they exist
And
this year?
parties, yes.
So we just absorbed that into the budget, right? Okay. I also just want to point out, I agree with you, and I think that that's what we're weighing right now is, you know, the appropriateness of the in-kind, you know, and I can't disagree with that. I think that makes a really good point. I know how much planning goes into it, and I know how valuable it is for the community. I will say that on the finance committee, I sat for a few years, and we were also asked by Hill City Celebrations at that time, a couple of times, to make a monetary donation as well. And so my just urging is that I would hope that you would recognize, as you said, and have, that the city does contribute in many other ways to the production of this event. And, you know, just the fact that we don't donate monetarily doesn't indicate that we don't support it. I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for what you do. I know it's really, really hard. I hate fundraising, so you guys are total rock stars in my opinion. So thank you.
Scott?
Just two things real quick. One, when it's a big community event, I think sometimes that's where we as a city have to try to sit there and say this is our gift back, because, you know, we're kind of limiting what we can truly do. And I understand that, you know, it benefits everybody around us plus us. You get that with community events. I understand. I can tell you where I sit as a private institution, bills come across my desk. I talk to the fire chief quite regularly, and the police chief, when we do events up there, we do get their bills and get paid out there. So I think it's, as a private, I think, you know, it'd be like if we're getting charged, I think everybody should, except for I get the community thing. That's kind of personal side of here. But my big thing is there a way that when we know we do a community event, that even though we know we're gonna run overtime in the fire or overtime in the police, that we can have some type of budget line set aside so it doesn't reflect on their side coming out of their budget, because we know that we're doing it for this, you know.
I would say no to that, because I would want to capture the cost within the fire, within the department that provided the service.
I understand that, but somehow reimburse that in from the other, like I have an account. So when they submit the overtime that it's this, you've got that already, yes, this cost us for this event, this amount of money. We can transfer that back over so that he's not out the.
$5,000.
Yeah, $5,000, you know, it goes back, so he knows that he still has that $5,000 to spend, not getting told, oh, you went over that, can't help you, you know. I think that's something to really look at.
So basically you're saying for the 4th of July that Ginny puts in a special account, basically $20,000,
Yeah,
15 between two departments. I'm assuming that DPS has got to be in around 5.
Let me go to a link.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it's worthwhile to come up with something creative to, encourage people who want to be community organizers to get involved with that, because I know that, facing the red tape and the expenses is often, the biggest burden, that an organizer faces. And I think we saw, especially like when the Memorial Day parade didn't happen, the community really feels it, and, those are the things that, come out as really important to them. So don't know right now what that solution is, but I think it's worthwhile, figuring something out.
Right, Shannon?
And just a side note, we definitely do need to work what this looks like out, because for, like, instance, Juneteenth always looks like a city-run event, and it's not. And Human Rights Commission has had to help front some of the costs and insurance and like finagle things and work things, and so I feel like if we're gonna provide to one, we need to provide for all and do so fairly and equitably.
I would just like to say that all of these funds are kind of salary and overtime. And one major incident on either side of the public safety house drastically impact the overtime rates and how much money that we spend overall. And each year, if we have overtime overages, they're identified, discussed, and they're covered by you through budget transfer. So I don't think that there's any reason for us to discuss, you cover us. You've been very supportive with us in the past with overtime overage. I think that some years we may have more overtime for 4th of July, but I think overall we build it into our budget annually with an anticipated amount of money for overtime.
All right, so Len, as chair of the legislative committee, do you feel like you've gotten enough information here to be able to bring that back to legislative as you're then going to craft a proposal that comes back to council?
I feel like Len, I think, what's bouncing around in my head right now, and Shannon is exactly right, is we're not just talking about one event. We heard from one event organizer, but what I'm thinking is, how do we find the line, which is what staff is asking us to do. And, how do we define a community event? Do we define it by the organizational structure of the event organizer? I think we need to really tease out, okay, so how many events is that, right? Like currently, how many events could that be if we do it that way? But the other thing is, is it not-for-profit or for-profit? How do we define community versus private? Like how many, I go to Heartwood football games and I'm not affiliated with them, the Oneonta City School District providing ambulance support for their football games. That's our community's kids, so it's for the community. So I think, like you said, clear as mud, it's like they're very fuzzy, kind of intricate things that need to really be fleshed out. And so I think that it would be helpful to hear a little bit more while we're all in the room, just about, what everyone's thinking right now in terms of assessing these fees. I mean, I will say, from my experience at the school district, for example, the park fees, so you guys pay a park fee to do, so you pay the park fee, but you don't pay the public safety fee. The school district pays to reserve tennis courts, but we don't pay for ambulances at the football games, and so where do we wanna, how, right? That's the big question, and so I just think more conversation would be good, personally, before we take it back to legislative.
Sure, but I wonder nonetheless if the legislative doing some of this work and then providing council with some specific topics that generate the discussion, again, looking at an agenda here of about 14, 15 items, if that might make some sort of sense within the context of legislative.
That's fine.
No,
Oh, you can go. You're closer, okay.
So
we'll
Yeah.
continue working on it. We might bring it back up to council again before we bring the final.
well, we could talk about it, hold on, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Please.
Jen. Go ahead.
I think that it was wanting to be discussed a little bit more.
I'm, just to clarify, the question that you posed is, to what extent does the city pay for certain services, and to what extent has it exempted itself from paying certain services? We need to figure that out. That's the charge, or
Right.
what?
And we need to figure out what the criteria is for whether or not we charge for services.
And I wonder if maybe we should have a cutoff of like, if we give so much, like.
Yeah, maybe up to 5,000.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Because then that way it's more of a level playing field and then we're not over-serving necessarily them.
Sure. Again, I wonder though if the legislative committee might not just make some proposals based on everything that they've heard here and.
The three of us might have that team working, but if the rest of the council wants to chime in with your ideas and email the committee, that'd be great. I'd really like to hear from you guys. I think that's what Katie's
I
saying.
need some time.
Yeah, I think just the ideas is what we're looking for, just people's thoughts on how to navigate that. So email Len or everybody, or Len. I think she's looking for more thoughts around this.
So have we we've gotten to where, yes, thank you from all of us for everything that you do. I believe that you're good with the next step here and with that, I'd like to move ourselves along to our discussion number 8, discussion agenda number 8, which is our human resources staffing plan. And did we just lose Dave wants to council?
Wait, are we taking a break?
No, everybody else.
We do have 2 people who just left. We weren't-
Okay.
Wasn't that the
Just so you know, I request a break at 8, employee of work, will allow 2 hours.
Yeah, we could do that. Maybe now. Yeah, maybe now, actually, as we've lost 2 council members. So why don't can we reconvene though, at 5 minutes to, we
so many just little things.
What's that?
There were parts. So fireworks, and it was just getting dark. And there was a more important.
All right, we're back. And we're back. So we were looking at our human resources staffing plan as discussion agenda number 8. And Greg, would that be you taking this? Or?
Yeah, and obviously we had this discussion last time and Dave gave a presentation and we reattached that. Pull it up again if you'd like to. But I was hoping that the council had some time to think about that since we last discussed it. If there are questions you want to discuss further with myself and Dave, anyone else, I think that's what tonight's discussion is about.
We'll start with Scott.
Well, I got an unpopular discussion on this, I'm pretty sure of it, but I think it's something we need to look into. And I had a conversation with the chair of the Otsego County Board of Representatives, Ed, and he talked about maybe this is a spot where we can share services and look into, at least look into seeing if it's even can happen. With staffing, with their staffing, with our staffing, keep our people, you know, I don't wanna lose you, David, that's, I won't let you go anywhere, trust me. But, you know, this is, I think, just an opportunity to, with everything that's been presented to us, because we know we need more staffing in our police, we need more staffing in our fire, and maybe this is a place where if we could, share the service, and it could be a benefit to taxpayers, just not the city, because we also pay for the human resources of the county too, as we pay our taxes. I just think it's really worth looking into, and so did the chair of the county board, and I just think that we need to have that style of discussion as we're doing this, because in the plan, we are, as it's presented, we are going to be adding, was it $100,000 off the top of my head if I remember right? 92. So, and that's gonna just keep growing every year as we give out raises and longevities and stuff like that. So, I don't wanna discourage anybody, but, and that's not my intent here. My intent is I just think we need to go and research and get all the information and come back and make a informed decision.
Further conversation among council members?
I would say,
I anticipated.
I would say that I'm not obsessed with the idea of splitting an administrative assistant. Like, I think that the logic that you provided is logical, but I think long-term, I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know what the solution would be, which stinks, and I don't like to say things if I don't have an idea for a solution, but,
I have counter proposals.
I know that, what is it?
I have counter proposals.
Okay, oh, good,
Yes.
well then I'll
Yes.
just wait for those.
No, that's fine. No, like if that's a question that wants to come up. So should I address?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
Scott first. I would very much like to welcome a conversation regarding the situation at the county. And it's not something that I'd like to do in open session because I have a ton of respect for the people that work there. But I would very much welcome the opportunity to have discussions regarding some sort of consolidation amongst those folks, amongst everybody. Because I do have strong feelings about that.
And in fairness to everybody, I haven't had a chance to talk to Dave about this, so that's, you know.
No, and I anticipated those types of questions.
I spoke to David after the last common council meeting and just said, hey, I'm looking for shared services. Right, like Scott, I don't wanna lose David.
Yeah.
Because to me, he is the human resource department.
And listen, if truth be told, if I could stay the senior human resources specialist and actually be functioning within that job title and stay right there, and there magically be a human resources department that, you know, was there and I didn't have to do stuff outside my job title, I would be thrilled to just stay within that job title and focus 90% of my time on civil service. Because I'm a civil service nerd and I love civil service. And I love solving civil service problems. That's where, beyond my service to my fellow coworkers, providing civil service solutions is where most of my passion comes from for my job.
And so having less to do with civil service and more to do with human resources, to me, is a downside of this plan for myself personally. But there are, significant challenges that the county is currently going through when it comes to civil service. And I'm very hopeful that I've never met Penny. I've talked with her on the phone a couple times, and I'm very hopeful that I get to meet her at a conference next week that hopefully they're there, because I have good relationships with Shenango County and with Delaware County, and I've never had the opportunity to meet Penny. I hope I can do that next week. I hope that they're represented there at Saratoga. Now, for the administrative specialist piece of this plan, my goal to put this together was not to be, I very much was cognizant of the fact that I didn't want to put together a plan where I got into a negotiation, where I'm like, well, this isn't what we could do. I wanted to make the absolute most economical plan to put forward to you that I felt could be compliant in what we need to be able to do as a human resources agency and provide service to our employees at a minimum level at the worst, and hopefully a little bit better than that, because we're not doing either of those things right now. So one of the key things that needs to happen for us to be able to do that is to have a gatekeeper. And every single department in the city, for the most part, has some form of gatekeeper, whether it's Gail in Ginny's office, whether it is Al in the fire department, whether it is the dispatcher at the police department, whether it is Aaron at Central Garage or Marianne at DPW, everybody has a gatekeeper. Everybody has somebody sitting at a desk, if there is a desk. Fire is a little different than everybody else, but for the most part, everybody has somebody sitting at the desk that deals with the public firsthand, and HR doesn't have that. And we might need it more than anybody else because we're dealing with employees coming in asking for services, we're dealing with the public coming in and asking about jobs, and we're dealing with retirees. So we got it coming in from 3 different areas. Finance is very similar in that respect, in the fact they get a lot of questions from retirees, the public, and current employees as well. But for the most part, I feel like we are one of the more forward-facing departments. And today is a perfect example of I got zeroed done this afternoon because every 5 minutes I was getting up to answer the door. Because as soon as Nancy left, I didn't have that coverage. There's got to be someone there. So if we're not into the whole shared thing, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine. I can find full-time work for an administrative specialist in that position.
Yeah.
I can get 40 hours worth of work out of that person just with HR. But it's absolutely essential that there's someone there.
Sure. I don't disagree with that. I think for me, it's more about envisioning the future of the parks administrator and what they might be able to do. And so having that shared, like you said, I know when I have to wear 2 hats, it's really hard to get anything done super effectively under either one of them. So I think that for me is where the reservation was, and I know that you have kind of a special background that might facilitate that. And I hope that you don't go anywhere for a really long time. But setting things up for the future, it just doesn't make sense to me as it stands. And I understand that that would be an additional cost, but I would certainly favor 2 separate positions.
And to piggyback on what you just said there, hoping I'm here for a long time, you're hiring an old pope, if you will, okay? I'm planning on turning 55 in 5 years and retiring and moving on. And I feel like I can take this department and build it and train the successor. And in 5 years, the city would have the opportunity to use that 5 years. It's gonna take a long time. If we were to do something drastic like dissolve civil service, that's a 2-year plan. It's not like I've never looked into that before. We're in a critical stage right now, and we need something that's gonna keep the doors open right now. And I think this is a plan that does that, and it gives the city 5 years to determine whether this plan's gonna work, and if we've grown it to the point where my successor has been identified. And if not, then do we need to go back to human resources director, or do we go to the county to think about, we get in 2.5 years, we think, okay, maybe we do want to start doing that. That's gonna be a long-term project to combine services with the county. Maybe halfway into this, that's when we start talking about this, when we say, there's nobody here that we're looking to promote to senior human resources specialist with the idea that eventually they come up to principal 2.5 years after that. Let's start looking at the county at that point. But I'm not gonna be here for 10 years. I'm not, you know? I grew up in Oneonta and I moved to Binghamton 10 years ago because of the love of a good woman. And I do that commute because of that, but Oneonta is still where my heart is. But eventually that drive's gonna get to me. And when I can retire, I'm gonna retire and go into the private sector and do HR stuff there, you know? So that's, you know, I'm pot committed and this is my all-in move, to use the poker terms, so. Yeah.
Could you speak broadly to some of the, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wasn't even recognized, I'm
She's
just
on-
like,
she's
oh,
on.
Dave.
I'm sorry.
So could you just speak broadly to some of the reservations that you have about the county, about shared services? Obviously, I know you don't wanna get into it too much, but just so that we have kind of an orientation to what challenges that might.
Both agencies are currently dealing with very similar challenges. They're dealing with it on a much broader scale because they are not only they're dealing with a much larger employee base. Plus, from a civil service standpoint, I take care of one school, they take care of 16, 17 schools.
Oh, wow.
You know, they have every other school in Otsego County other than Oneonta High School. They have every other library other than Huntington Memorial Library. I don't know how many special districts they have. They have a much larger job than we do, and they're struggling in many of the same ways we are. So if you take one agency that's struggling and another agency that's struggling and you put them together, we're both gonna snowball our problems together. You need to get both of those agencies to a point where they're at least doing the bare minimum before then you can start looking at putting them together and being competent together. And I don't think either of our agencies are there yet. And I can give some, I don't want to give statistics, but I do have some that I can talk one-on-one about.
Cecilia?
I just wanted to say that the presentation you gave at last meeting occurred late at night.
I'm sorry.
Not that it was you at all.
I know.
It was late in the evening, and yet I found it just as compelling as if it had been in the afternoon. So I thought that you gave an incredibly reasonable and measured discussion of what your department needs are. And the HR department, you know, goes without saying almost, it is really the heart of any organization. And so you've proposed to keep the heart still beating. And so thank you for that. And I appreciate your comments about the county because I also was curious in terms of that dynamic.
Yeah.
So.
I do like I said, I hope I have an opportunity to meet Penny at some point in the future. I know that, you know, that there were talks about making sure that she gets there because there's a lot of really important stuff on the agenda next week that I'm really looking forward to digging into as the civil service nerd in me, including serious reforms when it comes to police examinations, and just Hopel is doing tremendous work along with Commissioner Tim Hogues when it comes to an attempt to modernize civil service very fast. They're moving at lightning speed right now, and that's gonna put even more of an emphasis on us to be able to stay caught up. Because what they're doing is fantastic and it has to be done. None of us can hire right now, including the state. If anybody's tried to call the New York State retirement system, you can't get to anybody. You can't. All these people that are retiring this month, they're doing it without consultations because they can't even get through to anybody in the state. So all of us are in the same boat, state, county, local. And I do think that there are a lot of changes coming and we need to be prepared for them and we need to be staffed up and ready to implement them, so.
Yeah, I just wanna, part of my conversation with him was to look at both as a comprehensive thing and see, it wasn't about like immediate takeovers, looking at, you know, what can be handled, what can't be handled, what is it gonna take to get that way, what is it gonna take to try to combine forces, because like, you know, everybody is struggling, and I don't see where we're gonna get, you know, it's just gonna be a big struggle going on down through. So I just wanna let you know, it's just a beginning conversation of let's have this difficult conversation, just to see if it's even a viable conversation. That's where we kind of left off. And he's gonna talk to his staff, how much more is it gonna take, what do we gotta do, is this even possible? And, you know, I didn't get a chance to talk to you, just my conversation to you is, what do we need to do? Is this even possible? What are we looking at if we did this? What are the big challenges if we did this? So I just wanted to let you know, I wanted the council, know. It was just a quick conversation real quick with the chair to see, because if nobody was even interested, it was no, the county wasn't interested and we weren't, but we were, or
You know-
whatever, vice versa, then there was no sense even trying to have a
And I'm
conversation.
perfectly like open to the idea of starting those conversations because, like I said, that's a multi-year plan. And if we can start by at least like talking about things that we do and start doing things on a parallel path. So like if we're both looking at updating civil service software, you know, is that let's make sure that we're getting the same civil service software. So at some point, if that parallel path starts to merge together, we're on the right path to be able to be speaking the same language. But like I said, neither organization, I think, is in a place to be able to help each other right now, I don't think. Yeah, I know my records are, I would need to spend months just doing that to get in a place where that's all I did and got our civil service in a place where we could look at a merger, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to know more about, I know you've mentioned compliance and that that's one of the things that's hard to keep up on now. And I'm curious, like, what the implications are of that, financial and otherwise.
So, without going into any specifics on what we are struggling with compliance, and again, that's something I'd be happy to have one-on-one conversations with, but I don't want to have any regulatory agencies knocking on the door tomorrow.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So,
It's a thing called liability,
what ends up happening is you don't have time to do everything. And what ends up happening from a management standpoint of trying to manage your priorities is we get to a point where like, this is something that has to be done every year, but we just did it last year. This one we haven't done for 2 years. Let's check this one off the list, and then hopefully by the end of the year we have time to get to this other one too. So you end up playing with this shell game where are you out of compliance or are you not timely compliant? I'd certainly, like I said, be willing to give one-on-one, very specific examples of that in one-on-one conversations. But that kind of gives you an idea of how we try to manage it the best we can. And one of those things, like, I know for a fact that every single transaction, that personnel transaction happens is happening legally. What I don't have time to do is to properly document it. You know, so that's an example of, are we doing everything correct? Yes. Are we documenting correctly and in compliance? Maybe not, you know, but I can very easily fix that, just need the staff and time to do it, so, yeah.
But compliance issues, they can have financial implications
They very much
potentially? Okay, that's
Yes, they
just what I
very
wanted
much
to-
do.
I figured, I mean, I'm familiar with Medicaid.
Yes.
So, yeah.
David, where would you like this conversation to wind up that's going to help you this evening?
I mean, if there is consensus that this is a good solution to at least try for a couple of years at least, you know, and we can move this forward tonight, then that's fantastic. If we have 5 votes tonight, then that's wonderful. But I also, and I can't be here on the 18th, unfortunately, I have another commitment on the 18th, so I can't be here for the next meeting. But should there be a HR committee that happens to meet before that, I would be available for that. I don't know what the plan is for when that would restart, but, I mean, if there's the overall consensus that if we were a restaurant, right now, we don't have the cooks we need to put the food out, you know? And that the $92,000 that I'm proposing is a heck of a lot better than if we weren't in this circumstance that we are right now, in the unfortunate circumstance of you know, Director Temming's resignation. I'd probably still be here asking for the same thing and would have a price tag of $175,000. And that we embrace the fact that we have a current opportunity with 2 vacancies to do this at a discounted price and to try to do it in a creative manner that is costing money, but not as much as it might be if it wasn't due to the current opportunities.
So, I'm sorry, can I just ask a question? Currently, regarding motion 9, you are working out of title.
I am not currently working out of title,
Okay.
but I want to start becoming more involved in some of the decisions that are being made, as we transition from me to Joe running the department.
Okay.
And we're being very cognizant that I'm not currently working out of title, but there are discussions that are there are issues currently facing the city that to make for a more smooth transition, it would help if I had this title. Now, the reason that I wanted for both of our sides to make it a temporary title is if you're not ready to make an appointment today, that's fine. And if we eventually go to a position where I don't feel like I've been given a position, a place where I can succeed. I've watched 3 very capable people fail, fail is a strong word, not decide to move on. And I don't want to put myself in that same situation. So for my protection, that's why I'm currently asking for the temporary title, the temporary appointments.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but also because if you're not ready to make a decision today, it doesn't commit you to having me as the principal HR specialist. It allows you the ability that if you do decide you want a director or you have some other plans, that I can go back to being senior very easily.
I have another question. So the temporary appointment, there's no, in the motion, there's no end date. So how do you see that if we would transition out of that? How does that work?
Sure. So a temporary appointment without regard to an eligible list, which obviously there is no eligible list for this position, was only adopted by Civil Service last week. We have a 6-month window. We have a 6-month window before we would have to take some sort of action of either should the state decide that the HR director test that I just took is sufficient enough and allow me permanent appointment from that list. We did that for Lieutenant Berger. He was actually appointed off the chief list rather to his title, lieutenant. That's how I would envision at some point, once we get the scores back for the HR director test, which I'm fairly confident that I did well on, that would resolve my temporary status to a permanent status. And then the other option would be to make it a provisional appointment once that 6 months is up, if we don't have resolution at that point.
Okay. And should we decide that this isn't if we make the temporary appointment today and we decide that this isn't the direction that we want to go, how does that look?
I would retreat back to my current title.
Okay.
Yeah, I have retreat rights, yep.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to make motion number 9 that we establish the title of Principal Human Resource Specialist.
Chief Witzenberg had his hand up too.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I did, and if it's okay with you, I prepared something I would just like to address the council based on my perspective as chief of police in regard to HR.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
On Sunday, May 26th, I celebrated my 26 years as an employee of the police department. In 26 years, I've spent 17 years as a union representative for both the sergeants and officers collective bargaining units. And I've been an administrator for the city of Oneonta for the last 8 years and have worked closely with the staff of the HR department in that time. While there have been improvements to the HR department, there have not been marked changes or hard look at staffing requirements. For decades, we've seen how the staff struggle to manage the workload, and employees have often felt that the department didn't care or was indifferent in regard to managing workplace issues. As an administrator, I've been able to see firsthand the challenges of managing civil service requirements, public employee safety and health, required workplace training, facilitating insurance and retirement issues, administering tests, canvassing lists, managing the needs of the city staff for onboarding and recruitment, and often at the expense of very good people and capable people within the HR department. From the police department perspective, since 1998, I've had 21 senior staff members retire and 4 resign who were ahead of me. Since then, 63 police officers have been hired. From that 63, only 3 have retired and 20 remain. 40 police officers have transferred or resigned from employment in 26 years at an average of 66% attrition. That's a stark number, but I don't see this as limited to just the police department, but staffing for the city as a whole. And I use this example to illustrate that from those 40 people that have moved on, many have had good years of service, and it's impossible for us to put a price on what it costs us as taxpayers over the years to claw back the institutional knowledge possessed by those who've moved on after hitting their stride. Dave Corey's been with the Personnel and Human Resources Department for many years. His understanding of what mechanisms should be in place to stabilize the workforce is there. The proposed division of labor will allow for a deeper dive into stabilizing the existing workforce and propping them up through recruiting efforts, more efficient onboarding of staff, and continued development of staff and staff-related programming. Ultimately, staff that's committed, motivated, and experienced provide a higher level of service to the public that we serve. I just think it's important that you get, from my perspective, I think that Dave's position in HR and the HR department as a whole is really the heart of the city. And we need to do what we can to try to make his department whole so that the rest of us can function at an efficient level.
Thank you.
Happy 26 years.
Yes, I know, golden anniversary.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You know, I had never thought of those numbers that way, and I think part of the reason that you see such a stark difference from the people that were here before Chris and the people that were here after Chris is that the folks that were here before Chris, they were tier 1, tier 2 in the retirement system. You didn't leave public service. You were there until retirement because it was such a great deal. Tier 5, tier 6 isn't the same thing. It is much harder to retain people now because they can get much better deals in the private sector in some cases. And so I had never seen those numbers like that before anymore. That really is a real stark display of how much more challenging retention is today versus it was even 10 years ago. Thank you for that, Chris.
So can I still?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. And thank you for sharing that statement. Okay, I would like to make a motion that the Common Council establishes the title of Principal Human Resources Specialist, subject to all civil service requirements, allocated to the administrative manual salary grade A4 with a standard workday of 8 hours. So moved.
Second, Shannon. Further discussion?
Does this need to be temporary, since temporary is in motion of town?
It's just establishing.
Right, just establishing the title doesn't need to be temporary, but the appointment would be temporary, so the title would be there permanently, but it doesn't have to be filled.
As David was saying, this just got approved by Civil Service, New York State Civil Service.
Local Civil Service Commission.
Yeah.
Local.
State Civil Service doesn't need to, only needs to chime in if it's a non-competitive exempt, something out of the competitive class. Our local commission has the right to establish competitive class positions without state approval.
Further discussion?
Councilmember Moser Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh.
Aye.
Councilmember LaParche.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Mathis.
Yes.
All right, very good. Moving on. Thank you very much, David. We're going to move on to motion number 10, that the Common Council approves the city administrator's temporary appointment of C. David Corey to the position of Principal Human Resources Specialist at a base annual salary of $70,000, administrative annual salary grade A4, effective June 5, 2024, subject to the satisfaction of all applicable civil service and pre-employment requirements. Do I have a motion to approve? Katie, or by Elaine? Well, I have to be quick. Oh, Elaine's got it. All right, so, and discussion, and call the roll.
Councilmember Moser Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Walsh Russo.
Aye.
Councilmember McHugh.
Aye.
Councilmember LaParche.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Councilmember Mathis.
Yes.
Don, heads up, I'm going to be looking to you. Okay. Motion number 11. Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes.
On that topic, it's not on the agenda, but just so we know how to move forward with recruitment, what we had talked about at the last meeting was recruiting to fill the vacancy, the anticipated vacancy that Joe is leaving by leaving the director title. In order to know what titles to fill that vacancy with, it'll be helpful to know if we're looking at expanding the staffing, as proposed by Dave. Because if we fill that with an HR specialist, and then the council decides we're not adding any positions, then we don't have a director, we don't have a principal, or we have a principal temporarily. So if the council feels they're ready to discuss what is our path forward, are we gonna authorize us to go forward with developing a budget amendment and filling additional positions, that would be a good time to determine that. Otherwise, I'm not sure we can bring back a motion to hire someone not knowing what title to fill. We do have people that are interested.
Cool.
That's a reasonable concern. Go ahead, Katie.
Well, so I just was hoping that you could, so in terms of civil service and budgeted vacant positions in the department, we now have a budgeted, principal human resource specialist. We have a vacant,
Soon to be vacant. director.
tomorrow vacant, tomorrow vacant
Oh.
senior.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's budgeted through the rest of the year.
no, I think what we just approved was according to the title,
Right.
but it's not an additional budgeted position.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just trying to think about if we do not, the intent was to not, to have Dave Corey be the principal HR person and to not appoint or not search for an HR director, is my impression of the presentation that we have. So I'm just comparing positions to positions. If we're not going to fill that one, then we would still have the vacant, because he's looking at building the team, right? If I recall correctly, no more coaches, more teammates,
Yes,
right?
we need players.
Okay, yeah, so my whole question is, currently, there were 2.5. HR director, senior HR specialist, and
Part-time clerk.
she's clerk. Okay, I wasn't sure what her
Based on
title
our
was.
conversation and the consensus we had and the fact that it was already in the budget, we did officially move her to HR specialist effective May 30th. So she now does have the professional HR title
Oh, cool.
with, and she's working in title and she's thrilled. And she actually participated in my interviews with some of the other folks and
And she's part-time.
She's part-time, it's
and
remaining
only
part-time.
interested in part-time.
No,
Okay.
yep, she's a Meisler's retiree, so
okay.
she's limited in the amount of earnings she can have, yeah, so, yeah.
Okay, so we have effectively moved Dave into the leadership position in the HR department. We have at least one vacant position open. It wouldn't make sense for that to be an HR director. It would make sense for that to be a senior HR specialist or HR specialist, because we've established that title as well.
Yep.
Okay, so that's like budgeted, could happen without any additional cost incurred through the rest of the year. And then we're talking about adding an additional person, right? So it's sort of two additional people. So it's sort of, to me, it's sort of two separate issues, right? It's like, how are we going to staff the office now? And then where do we want the office to go? So that's all I wanted to kind of get at, I think, was clarifying my understanding and then also how we might move the discussion forward. Thank you.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable hiring two right now, I mean,
Two in addition,
yeah. I
okay.
think that's something we really gotta sit down and discuss as a council, budgetary,
Finance
everything.
committee,
You know, I think they're, right now you're in office for full staff.
two and a half.
No, 2.5 right now,
We moved one up.
until the 21st when Joe is, gone.
I mean, so you're looking, I'm gonna say gatekeeper, because that's what I keep hearing from you, so you need a gatekeeper right now.
I would say my priority would be, the HR specialist, when you're talking about the two full-time titles, the priority is the second HR specialist and then the administrative specialist. They're both very important positions, but if I had to prioritize them, the new HR specialist would have to be higher because they have a professional level of, the stuff in that job spec is going to allow them to do way more than an administrative specialist.
But even integration with the county, if that discussion continues, you'd still need to have a senior HR specialist, correct?
We would not need, so a senior right now, with the way that we wrote the principal spec, is not necessary, because it was very much written with an idea of many of the senior things that fall within the job spec of the entry-level title, being able to have, there's overlap. When Katie developed this line of succession of human resources specialist, senior human resources specialist, human resources director, there was overlap built in. So basically what I did was I added a fourth tier to that with the principal human resources specialist, and again, there's overlap built in. There are things on the top end of director that the principal can't do. There's things at the bottom end of principal that senior can do. There's things, so there's overlap from top to bottom for now with 4 positions. So in the short term, if we had the 2 human resources specialists, a principal human resources specialist, and a administrative specialist, there would not be need for a human resources specialist.
All right, so David, you need a HR specialist, because you have a part-time one, that's Nancy, she moved up, right?
Yep.
And you're the principal.
I'm the principal.
Right, so you're looking to do an HR specialist, so I'm sorry, I used the wrong term.
No, that's good.
You're just HR.
Yep.
But that position's not really gonna go away even if we integrate with the county. You're still gonna need, that's still only 2.5 people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I'm okay with that, I'm just not okay with it.
David's also talking about going out for another 2 positions, like that's the part they're talking about.
That's the part because we haven't really discussed all that.
I just don't want to get past this month. Because achieving our good ones, our current TPS, you need at least the same amount of staff in that department.
I won't accept a promotion if I have the same amount of staff. I can't do the job if I have the same amount of staff. I need.
And the interviews that you're doing are for HR specialists.
HR specialists, yeah, and like, my point of my presentation was that we have 200 hours worth of work and we have 100 hours of people doing it. We can't keep falling behind. We need to, and I'm willing to try at a staffing level of a four full-time, full-time equivalency of 4. So I'm willing to try that, which is still only 160. That still puts us below, 40 hours below what I think our workload is. But by moving some of that HR director stuff up to the point where that we're removing that seat from the table, hopefully I can spend more time than an HR director does, and we can maybe find some more efficiencies somewhere. And I'm willing to give it a shot at 160. If we don't like the idea of the shared position and we do a full-time administrative specialist, then we're looking at 180. That's a full-time equivalency of 4.5 instead of 4 at that point. But like 160 is my bottom line. That I don't think I can do the job if I don't have a full-time equivalency in that office of 4.0.
I understand that, but I'm also already, after your presentation the other night, I've also been getting phone calls and stuff from taxpayers saying we can't afford this because taxes, we can't afford this. And I gotta listen to them.
And we have to shut the doors.
Yeah.
It's like a restaurant that doesn't have a cook, like I said earlier.
I get that, Dave.
Yeah.
You gotta understand where I'm supporting you, I'm trying to get you the help, but I just don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to get there, and I understand you did it, but I can use yours thing for every department. I got police department that's understaffed, it needs more. I got fire department that's understaffed, I got DPW that's understaffed, every department's understaffed.
Right.
But not everybody, but we tanked out on the money that the taxpayers in my area can really afford. So the catch-22 for me is I'm trying to help you out, I'm trying to start getting your department the way you wanna go. But I can't sit there and tell you I'm gonna give you 4 or 5 people right now, or, I just can't do that. And I'm hearing you.
Yep.
And I understand what you're saying, so I think, honestly, this has moved so quick too, you go ahead and give it to us one night, here we are at the next council meeting, and all of a sudden, this is on, we need this, and this. Okay, I can start giving you some of it, but we still need the implications of stuff as we go forward. What's it gonna look for 2025, 2026, 2027? How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? We gave out almost $2 million of raises. We haven't settled the fire contract yet. Once the fire contract comes, that's gonna be even more. We took 1.8 out of reserves to pay for this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't keep taking 1.8 out of reserves. I can't go to the taxpayers for a 10% tax increase either, like was given to us last time. We do have to raise, I agree, we have to go taxes, at some point, we've gotta go to the tax cap, I agree with that. But I can't justify everything into personal services line. And 71% of our budget is personal services line right now.
Yeah.
So telling me to close the doors, that's not real, I don't know what to tell you, Dave, I can't. If we don't have the people that can afford to live here, you might as well dissolve the whole city at that point.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, and I don't have the answer, I'm trying to work with you, so I took a little offense to that when you
I
said.
apologize for that, you know, but like,
I'm a big boy, I'll get over it, trust me, I really will.
I
Because I put
obviously,
my foot in my mouth all the time,
Yeah.
all the way up here, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is, I'm just trying to sit there. And then I look at the stipends we give out, and we're giving stipends to people because they wanna take, you know, hey, we're gonna share this, we're gonna share that, then there's a stipend, and this comes at us, and a couple months on later, another thing comes at us. I don't, Dave, I can sit here and justify giving you the full-time, so you're at 3 full-time staff. I'm not sure I can justify more than that yet until we have the budget discussions that we gotta go into.
and I totally get that you folks are in a really, really tough position. And like I said before, I am perfectly willing to be the city's senior human resources, you know, specialist and do the stuff that's within that job title and do that because I love it. And you know, I'm perfectly happy fulfilling that. And I have no ego if that's the decision that's made is let's keep Dave there. And I'll run out my 5 years there and I'll be perfectly happy with it. I'm hoping that what's coming across is that your subject matter expert in this area is telling you that in order to be in compliance with law, this is what's required.
It's coming across crystal clear, I want you to know that, it's
Okay.
crystal clear, it's just, I don't know how to justify everything, because.
Right.
With all due respect to the council, this is something that's been created by councils past in the 1970s. My agency was in the 30s as far as staff. And over the years, because of budgetary considerations, we've lost positions, including 3 since 2007. And we've had 0 say over the staff that we've lost in the services that we've been unable to provide. When we're talking about a primary agency within the city government of human resources, we need them to be able to staff and maintain employees here in the city. This is a critical position.
Well, with all due respect, we're the ones that inherit the issue, we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
This has been a very progressive
What I'm
council.
trying to do is provide context through history.
Right, I know, but on the same token, it doesn't change where we're at now.
Understood.
We had, you know,
Very difficult decisions, and I feel for you all because you're in this position, but at the same time, you didn't put yourselves here.
Appreciate that, Chief, appreciate that. Scott, can we bring this back to a place where one of the things we need to do is determine what it is we're hiring?
Right, I mean, that's the key question Scott was discussing.
Okay.
What do we want to go forward with? Right now, we're budgeted for 2.5 positions. We have one of them filled with one that's coming vacant. You know, Scott had said something about 3.5 or 3 full-time positions, but what is the rest of the council's take on that? I think what I've heard from Dave, what I understand from Dave, is that he's willing to fill the principal HR specialist role if there's proper staffing around him based on the objective analysis, database-driven analysis, that's for full-timers. I don't think that we have a leadership position in HR if we don't have that, unless it goes back to director, which goes back to the reason I brought this back up.
So we're paying for 1.5 people?
We have, I'm sorry,
We have 2.5, we're looking for 1.5.
we're looking for.
Yes, because we want to go from 2.5 to 4, yeah. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I move that we go into executive session for legal advice?
for legal advice. Okay, second.
Thank you.
Second, all in
I'd like
favor?
I'd like to keep David and Jimmy, please, and Nate Murphy.
All in
And
favor?
You guys can stay.
Hi.
Thank you.